Welcome to Guaranteed Audio, episode 11. It's the first one we've done since our 10th episode spectacular featuring dinosaurs.
Yes, we're going back to audio for this one. So sorry, there's no visual that you're missing out on. You'll just have to use your imagination, picture our pretty faces.
I am Kevin James, joined by my esteemed colleagues
Ryan Murphy.
Neil Ciceriga and
Julie Becker.
Hello,
Yay.
Julie.
Hello.
Some of you may know Julie from our videos we've made over the years. I think, how long have we been friends, Julie?
I would say since 2006.
Yeah, that sounds kind of about right. Probably the most popular video we've done together. You can't even see your face in it, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But you are actually we do that to you a lot. You're in Computer Fighters as the Quackers, so your face is covered in that.
Can't see my face.
No,
Julie
but
Becker portrays all of the Quackers.
yeah, but you are the main character in Kevin's movie, The Creed.
Yep.
Which is great.
You
And
do see my face there.
You do, yeah.
Yeah,
You
for
do
20 minutes.
Some emotion in that movie, and I don't know. What's your favorite project you've worked on with us?
What did I really like?
I mean, God, going back over 10 years.
I have to think about it. I don't like any of them. No. Yeah, I have to remember there's a lot of things that were very silly or stupid that I've also, like, before, you had decent cameras and things. We did all these little videos like in Neil's house where there was one where where I wore a Will Smith mask, it's like those were really fun, like these little ideas that we had, and we shot it in an hour or less probably.
Oh, those are the days.
Yeah.
Julie, I have fond memories from filming over adjacent to Newbury Street, where you and Neil's sister Emmy and Neil's now wife Ming were there with me while I was a homeless man.
Yes,
called The Magic Wish.
No,
The Magic of
The
Generosity.
Magic of oh, good lord!
The Magic of Generosity. That was a really good one. I think that's my mom's favorite.
Is it
Oh, yeah?
really?
That's a
Yeah.
rock. That's really solid. That's like so airtight performance-wise.
That's one of the few films that my mom co-wrote. I wasn't there, but I think Emmy came to me with that script, and my mom's credit was on it, so I guess she helped out.
Yeah, my mom always posts on her Facebook like a screenshot of my face from that
Oh yeah.
movie, saying, "This is my beautiful daughter," and it's me, making some weird
as
face.
crimson as the
as
Yeah.
crimson as rubies or whatever I say.
It's always funny which films your loved ones own or disown.
Yeah.
Like my family hates when I die in anything we've made, because there have been movies we've made where occasionally the deaths look very realistic, and it bothers my family. Julie, I mean, God, I think the first thing I can recall you doing with us, was it No Place Like Home, or was there something before that?
Yeah, the first thing that I did with all three of you guys, I think, was No Place Like Home, where again I was wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're like Tom Hardy. We just keep putting you in these masks.
Yeah, it was a character role. I played some sort of flying monkey, gremlin. I'm kind of typecast as that kind of.
You were
creature.
driving over from Connecticut at that point, right? Or were you living here?
It might have been when I was in college, where
right.
I moved to Boston. Yeah, I went to Northeastern.
You were like taking time out of your day to like just be in this mask.
Yeah,
That shoot is the old Civil War fort up in Hull, which is
right.
not easy to get to from anywhere.
I always joke this, and I want to sound like a kiss ass here. I've said this in confidence to Ryan and Neil before when we're writing ideas. I go, why is it that whenever we use Julie, who's the best actor we know, we give her the least amount of range possible? It's like, okay, Julie, put on this duck bill mask, these goggles, this suit that covers everything.
Okay, now you're gonna turn into pants.
Well, it's like, what's that? What's the guy who plays Pan's Labyrinth? What's his name?
Oh,
Doug Jones.
Doug Jones. I'm the Doug Jones of your films,
And we appreciate that.
I think that's fair.
and I like that. I really like Doug Jones, so
Doug Jones kissed me once. I'm dead serious. I have photographic evidence of this. I'll post it on the Patreon link for this episode.
Okay, cool.
In character?
No, we were at a convention. I was raising money for Make-A-Wish, and he came over. I was with a Ghostbusters troupe in full costume, and he walked over and asked what we were doing, and we explained, and he wanted a picture with us. And then he's like 6'7". He's huge.
Yeah.
He towers over me, even when I'm in like my jackboots in my Ghostbusters costume, and he just like gave me a big kiss on my forehead, like he was my father. It was like with ease. There's like a picture of it. It's really funny looking. So Julie, your line of work, is it safe to say that you were a real actor?
Yes. Well, I mean, maybe I'm not a no. What is real? I am an actor. I'm trained as an actor, but I do like weird experimental theater. So, some people might not even say it's like normal acting, but I do physical theater, I do devised theater, and other performance and like experimental dance and things like that. So that's my main thing.
Sure. Now,
So, sounds like the kind of thing you'd have to see to understand, right?
Yeah. And if you saw it, like, depending on what it is, you still, I don't know if it's understandable a lot of the time, but yes.
so you operate out of New York City these days?
Yeah, I moved there in last December.
Prior to that, we'd like hit you up like every like 3 months with like 24 hours notice, like, hey, we're making a movie tomorrow. Do you want to come by and get turned into pants? Do you want to come by?
Yeah, and I say you need to tell me when, like, far in advance.
At least 3 days.
So you can prepare.
So I can really get into character. No, because
You're
work.
quacking in the mirror, like you trying to get your facial expressions right.
'Cause I have a job.
For those of you just joining Guaranteed Audio, you can find every episode of the show over at guaranteedaudio.com. Over there, you can find the iTunes and RSS link, and all the YouTube videos are linked there. The Google playlisting, the whole show. Podcasts are fun; they're serialized. We've up to our 11th episode. You can find everything else we've done.
And we are still quite thankful and genuinely surprised that no one else had ever taken guaranteedaudio.com.
We got to trademark that.
No one else has the balls to guarantee audio.
If you look up Guaranteed Video on Google, we come up first, but then like the subsequent listings are all like stock footage websites or like marketing companies like Guaranteed Video Clicks and things like that. Moving on to Media Current. Media Current is the segment we do every episode where we talk about any art or entertainment we've consumed lately.
Media, if you will.
Media.
That we are currently enjoying.
Yeah. Neil,
That's the joke.
Neil, you start. What have you consumed lately?
I watched all the episodes that exist so far of a YouTube kind of a retrospective analysis, and it's called Nick Knacks, Nick-Knacks, on a channel called Pop Arena. And it's a really interesting piece on, surprise, surprise, Nickelodeon. Oh. But the way they're doing it, this guy, the way this guy's doing it is he's covering every show that has ever been part of Nickelodeon's programming, starting from the beginning. So he's starting in like 1979 and before.
The Canadian TV that got brought over? That kind of thing?
Yeah, he's covering the Canadian imports, but this is even before they started doing it. Like when they started in Ohio as part of this like experimental interactive TV package.
Okay.
And then they
interesting.
Yeah, and then they were owned by Warner Brothers, and so it's actually kind of it's actually a really interesting look at an early cable network, just finding its feet and operating cheaply, and the challenging thing about it is it's a very well-researched program, but a lot of these shows that were really early examples of Nickelodeon programming don't exist anymore. There's no information about them. They weren't recorded on beta tape or anything. Yeah. There's just very little information on like promotional packets and stuff like that. So this guy is doing his absolute best to make a full like 20 to 30 minute episode out of nothing.
Oral history, basically.
Yeah. So
has he gone looking for people? Like people who have credits on the productions?
To an extent, he's there's books that he cites and stuff, but I don't know, it's just like it's an interesting experiment, and it really makes me appreciate how much of the stuff, the Nickelodeon era that I grew up with, there is a ton of information and background info.
Yes.
And the creators. One interesting thing I learned was the creator of Doug, Jim Jenkins, started on Pinwheel, which was like their flagship show back in the late 70s. He was doing graphics and probably helping with puppets and stuff back then. So I guess he's been in the Nickelodeon family for longer than we knew.
What's the series called again?
Nick Knacks.
What I dig about the show, from what you're telling me, is that there are countless shows on YouTube that are essentially regurgitating Wikipedia articles, like looking at research someone else has done or a sea of other people have done, and just reading it into a microphone, then taking footage from these shows and still images and like, yeah, that's a history lesson, that's a documentary, that's a retrospective. No, you're doing
this
something
guy's
a
actually
bot could do. This guy's doing research.
Yeah, he's actually like digging up books and old newspaper clippings and like buying stuff off of eBay and stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty well researched for. It's better research than a show about Nickelodeon used to be. And there's already 27 episodes, and I think it's up to 1981.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Wow, cool.
That's how much ground it's had to cover. And we're not even like in the golden era of Nickelodeon yet.
Sure.
Are there any like awkward snafus? Some things that maybe Nickelodeon wouldn't be, let's say, proud of?
No, but there was one. He had to issue one correction, something he mentioned in passing, and he was planning on doing an episode, and it turned out to be a myth that people repeated, which was that BET originated as a programming block on Nickelodeon. After Nickelodeon's programming would stop at night, people thought that BET started on Nickelodeon for some reason. It was mentioned on Wikipedia, and all these news articles were repeating this fact, and it wasn't the case. It was started as a 2-hour block or something on some other early cable network. And so this guy basically put out an episode debunking that myth and figuring out where it originated from and how it spread through the internet.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He's doing the legwork.
Yeah, exactly.
New
Yeah.
content.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Ryan, what about you?
I recently I spent money. I went on iTunes and bought the Scissor Sisters' second album, Ta-Da. And I did this because I was listening to the lead singer, Jake Shears, which is great that that's his name, like scissors.
Oh, Shears.
Shears. It's like the guy whose name is Wade is on the show with River Monsters where he catches fish, which best cryptid show in the world. He shows up with his delightful accent. People say there's an 8-foot catfish, and then he catches it.
Yeah.
He shows like, look at how big its fucking teeth are.
It's real.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
See y'all next week when I catch a big eel or or a squid, whatever. So the guy
Next
was on,
week we found a body. Ooh.
Jake Shears was on NPR promoting his first solo album. I actually found out through this article, although I consider myself a fan of the Scissor Sisters, who, for those of you at home, if you haven't heard them, Google that shit. You're going to have a great time.
Speaking of 2006, yeah.
But although I consider myself a fan, I found out in this NPR interview that they broke up in 2012. I didn't know that. So their album from 2006, delightfully entitled Ta-Da, has the single I Don't Feel Like Dancing with a delightful, great music video. Yeah, Google that stuff. If you have not heard this before, do that. There's a lot of fun songs. The album is fun. There's some mellow moments. There's some danceable moments. It's just a silly, goofy, tongue-in-cheek, bombastic Provincetown parade. It's all over the place. It's from 2006. And yeah, I had not listened or re-listened to the Scissor Sisters in the longest time. And listening to him, again, Jake Shears speak, I went, all right, yeah, I'm so glad I redid this. Money well spent.
I thought you were talking about the Pointer Sisters for some reason when you mentioned it. I always do that with the Scissor Sisters. I'm like, oh, cool. The Pointer Sisters are kind of up my alley. That's my kind of music.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Was that them? I think. Yeah, it was some sisters group on Sesame Street. Never mind. Irrelevant. How about Julie?
Let's see. Well, I haven't. The last movie that I saw in the theater was Solo, so I don't want to talk about that.
Understood.
I don't really care for Star Wars in general.
Preach.
But the cafe at the end of my block had a 90s witch night, and I went because I really wanted to see all these witch movies. I went to see The Worst Witch and Hocus Pocus. I missed The Craft. I showed up late, but basically at the cafe I watched Hocus Pocus recently, and then I actually had missed The Worst Witch, so later my roommate and I watched The Worst Witch later at home. And
it's only like 45. It's pretty short,
it's
right?
like an hour.
Yeah.
It's a TV movie.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a Harry Potter movie without a real villain. The villain in The Worst Witch is a very bitter middle-aged woman who basically she is in the woods with her friends, they get drunk and run in circles around this campfire, and they just want to destroy the school because she's just jealous of her sister, who is the headmistress. And like at the end, basically the headmistress says, "Don't do that," and then the evil twin of the headmistress, she kind of gets her friends, and they literally just hitchhike. Like, at the end of the movie is them they just leave. That's it. So there's no real threat of any kind in that movie. But it used to be my favorite movie as a kid.
I think
for
it's
some
funny.
reason.
I think it's funny that you missed The Craft, because Fairuza Balk is
Yeah,
also
she's in
The
both.
Craft. Yeah, she's a witch in both of those movies. And is she a witch in The Worst Witch?
She's the worst one.
Okay.
Yeah, she's
the
yeah.
worst witch.
Yeah.
I really like her.
Yeah.
My sister and I, about 2-3 years ago, went and saw a midnight screening of The Craft on film at the Brattle Theater, and we showed up. My sister and I we were approaching 30 when we go, and everyone else in the theater is like a college kid who apparently was seeing The Craft to laugh at it. And my sister and I weren't aware of this, and it got to like some of the serious moments of The Craft, and kids were laughing at it. And my sister was like, "Kevin, why are they laughing? What's funny about this?" I'm like, "I don't know."
This isn't funny. They're in serious trouble with this black magic.
Yeah, they're screwed. Like, I have such a soft spot for The Craft.
So for like a generation earlier than us, it's like Clueless.
It
it's
is
tongue-in-cheek funny to them.
I think if you weren't there, it's pretty goofy. Like,
I had never seen it growing up, and I watched it first time a few years ago, and I did find it kind of tonally weird, I guess.
but The Worst Witch, I've actually never seen.
Oh, my gosh.
And I really should watch, because you guys all reference it constantly.
Yes.
Here's the thing. I had never seen it all the way through until like last year. And so I did watch it, and I don't really remember a lot from it.
Yeah.
The crown jewel of the movie is right in the middle when Tim Curry shows up. And this
Bingo.
was a big early YouTube, you gotta watch this old crazy thing that used to air on TV kind of clip.
Yeah.
The song entitled "Anything, Can Happen on Halloween."
And the video that we mentioned, No Place Like Home.
Yes.
The scene that I was in was basically that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just kind of imitating that.
It was
Sure.
the biggest influence for the Wicked Witch scene. Absolutely.
Yeah,
when we made
but I remember catching that scene from the movie on TV when I was a kid, which is the perfect thing to just tune into and then turn it off. It's just,
Yes.
it's like the rest of the movie is not like this, but it's just so funny and memorable.
It's all video effects.
It's
too.
all, yeah, it's like early 80s,
And Tim Curry can carry it. He's having a lot of fun with
He
this.
always gives it his all. He doesn't know how to phone it in, which is almost a weakness.
yeah.
Smashing. So, Kevin, media current.
I'll do a video game because I recently just saw a bunch of bad movies like The Meg and Slender Man. So I'll talk about a video game.
Okay.
I recently picked up No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky, if you haven't heard about it, came out in 2016. And its whole hook is that it's procedurally generated, which means, okay, so you're in space. Have you heard of this game at all, Julie?
No,
So
I
no-
don't play video games.
So No Man's Sky.
I don't believe in space.
You don't play yet.
Well, No Man's Sky is, so basically you're in space. Mm-hmm. You just, when you first load up the game, you're just dropped on a planet. And the thing is, every planet in the game is unique. There's like something like 10 quintillion permutations of planets in this game, because the game will just say, okay, like your player number 4,000,002. So that means your first planet is this. And every planet has different vegetation, animals, elements. This planet could be bigger or smaller or have like a moon or whatever. It could have water. You could dig down. And the idea is that it's completely exploration based. So there's not really the carrot on the end of the stick. The reason you play the game is basically just to build a spaceship to get off the planet at the beginning. And then once you get into space, you realize there are like infinite possibilities out here. I can go to any of these planets. So it really is just the inner adventurer in you that has to motivate you to play more of the game.
It's first person, right?
First or third.
Okay, cool.
So the reason I never really paid attention to this game, because when it came out, there was a big media storm about how they overpromised and underdelivered the game.
We have seen that before. Was it? I want to think of was it called Spore?
Yeah,
That had
I've played Spore.
That had the endorsement from Brian Eno among that. Yeah.
No Man's Sky is often compared to Spore.
Okay.
They put out this update recently. It's basically the sequel to that game. But instead of having to buy a new $60 box product, they just patched it in as like a make good for anyone that bought the game 2 years ago. and I found the game for $10 at Walmart.
Yep.
So I went and bought it.
Cool.
They added a bunch of things. They fixed a bunch of things. But the main thing they added for me was cooperative play with your friends. So I've been playing online late at night with friends. I've done it like 3 or 4 times now. I've stayed up to like 5 in the morning on multiple occasions now, just talking to old college friends I haven't seen in years, walking around these like abandoned planets, like discovering new life and like building forts. It's like Minecraft. You can build
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm gonna get this game. This game sounds like a lot of fun.
It's a huge time sink, but it is fun. It's very calm. It's a good podcast game. It's kind of a counterculture game because most games nowadays are all about like numbers going up and just feeling like you're amassing some sort of digital wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I have more experience points, or oh, I have more Pokemon now, or collecting.
Yeah.
No Man's Sky, there is an element of that. Like you can pursue that. You can like, oh, I've like categorized every living thing on this planet.
Yeah, you
right?
do have to work towards.
You if you want to.
Yeah.
But it's not imperative. My friend Jess and I just explore planets. Like, oh, there's a cool like cave down here, and they're huge. They're giant land masses, and it's impressive that it's all done algorithmically. No one like sat down and designed each of these planets. It's just that's the game basically. Is that technology?
That's cool.
it's
I was thinking it'd be cool if it worked if it worked the way that Monster Rancher game worked, where you have to like put a different CD in
Have you heard
and
of
it like
this?
generates the planet from
I've
the CD.
Heard of this, but I don't really know what it is.
So there was a game in the late 90s called Monster Rancher on the original PlayStation. It's kind of a Pokemon sort of game.
Yeah.
And like it would randomly make monsters up for you to catch and collect or what have you. But if you wanted to, you could open up your PlayStation and put a music CD in, and it would read the music CD and make a monster based off the songs.
Whoa.
So like there is like a
It was more like it just used like the unique like signature of the CD, I
Sure,
guess,
sure.
and it generated a monster that whenever you put that CD in, it would always get that monster.
Does it save it to your memory card?
yes,
Like how-
yeah. So basically, if you like
Interesting.
so if anyone put "Live in La Vida Loca" into their PlayStation, they would get the same monster.
Yeah.
That's the name of the album
Oh.
too, right? Not just the single.
I was gonna say Hootie and the Blowfish, but that's much more fun. Something comically dated. That's actually a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should bring that back. I think it would
For
be
No
great
Man's
for
Sky?
specific planets, so you can
Yeah.
tell your friends like, "Hey, you got that old copy of Live in La Vida Loca? Throw it in there. It's a cool planet."
One thing I love about the game is that the aesthetics of every planet are different. So it's not just like green grass or blue water.
Oh wow, look at all those beautiful colors.
It's
Folks at home.
It's just weird. It's just weird.
I
Yeah.
just imagine some delightful planet. Like, there's a lot of James Taylor here. Like, is this like a baby boomer planet? Like, yeah, my dad was over for a couple of days.
They said early on that it was almost mathematically impossible to find someone else's planet, but now that they have that co-op mode, I can just jump on and be like, oh, my friend Mike is playing. I'll just go there and like I'll just pop onto his planet, even if he's not playing, and I could like take out my tools like my shovel and my laser gun and stuff and like write like "Eat at Joe's" on a mountain, and they could find it. Like it's a very post Minecraft game.
That sounds fantastic.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna be talking about the topic of the show, Slenderman.
It'll be real great.
I'll edit that in.
Yeah.
It'll be real great.
Julie, Ryan, Neil, what is Slenderman?
Are we all supposed to talk at the same time? Is that
Yeah, I'll give you a.
Slender Man is you probably know what Slender Man is. It's been around for 10 years now, right?
Something like that.
Something like
Might
that.
be maybe longer.
Maybe he's a cryptid.
Yeah.
He's an original creation of folklore. I'm pretty sure, like we were discussing, that he was on. He started off. The earliest incarnations were on the Something Awful.
Yeah, it was just kind of a Photoshop. Someone, I think, either actually found a camera in the woods and they started adding the photos there, or maybe it was a pretense for putting this creepy figure. I forget what the context was, but it quickly became a, hey, everyone try to one-up each other with creepy old photos and putting the character in the background.
June 10th, 2009 is the earliest known Something Awful post about.
Okay, yeah.
Not bad.
And then a little later, it was the Marble Hornets YouTube series, right?
Marble Hornets is the first YouTube series where, by the way, I rewatched some Marble Hornets last night, and they start off really fun. Like the Rabbit and Bambi Thumper. If you don't have anything nice to say, they start off really fun. So, yeah, Slenderman's a creepypasta. He's a collaborative creation of a whole bunch of people. He's a very simple character design. So even little kids who are maybe like just fumbling around with Photoshop, it's not that hard to put him in the background, smudge him up a little, and have some fun with this thing.
I think the genesis and sort of the activity that created Slenderman or has perpetuated Slenderman is much more interesting than the story of Slenderman.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
what Julie, like, what do you know? What's like the boogeyman tale of Slenderman? What does Slenderman do?
It's pretty typical. From what I understand, it could be a number of different things, right? One is that he lures children in playgrounds, or
Yeah.
you see pictures of him or photoshopped into the background of a playground or school. So like he hangs around children, which is naturally creepy. And then
Sometimes he's holding hands with children, leading them off the woods, the playground.
Yeah, they're
he's never
lured.
positioned with adults.
Right. And then there's the other thing that he's this entity from another dimension, so he's going to mess up with your electronics. He can't be captured on film, this kind of thing.
When you try to get more clarity, when you try to like run at him like a cryptid of I just thought of Mitch Hedberg's great bit of maybe Bigfoot's just blurry. that when
That's the problem.
yeah, that's why nobody can get a good shot.
Is that a Mitch Hedberg?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
Nice.
That if you try to get an audio and video recordings get distorted and screwed up when you get close to him. When you try and just run at him, which is a mistake
Yeah.
because he's a threat.
And yet there are clear depictions of him. Everyone knows
Photos,
what he
in
looks
fact.
like.
Yes.
So the reason we have Julie on for this episode, there is a terrible movie that just came out. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
But Julie, you were kind of the first person to really introduce us to Slender Man back in the day.
Yeah.
And I think you may have been the first Slender Man cosplayer.
That's possible. Actually, it started. So I was still in school. I was in school, and then I was in the theater club. And every 2 weeks, we would have what we would call a fortnight, which is the drama majors, theater majors, just do a little performance. It was kind of like a cabaret evening. And my friend Amanda and I were talking, and I said, let's make something having to do with Slender Man and show it and scare people. So we made this little video called, I believe it's called Julie and Amanda's Fun with Slender Man. And it's on YouTube. And I built stilts in the theater shop at my school. They were not suitable for walking in because they were very poorly made, but you could stand on them. I went to the thrift store. I got like a tuxedo jacket or suit jacket, suit pants, and I bought fabric and I just extended the sleeves. I extended the pants. And
You had like long arms on sticks.
yeah,
too, right?
I had these sticks that I just stapled these creepy gloves to the end of them. And I got this masks from spandexman.com, which is just a blank face essentially. And yeah, we made this little video, and we were in the playground at the top of the hill and at night shooting this little video, and then we scared the other theater majors at this event. So that's kind of the first thing I did with it.
So is that when you actually came out of like a door at the event?
Yeah, at
right?
the end of the video, it goes to static, and live when we were showing this little video, I come out of a door, really creepy as Slender Man, and they screamed, and it was really fun.
I'm watching it now, and it is pretty creepy looking. I'll put a link in the post on Patreon. So I got this funny story related to this. In 2010, you did the same thing at Flimfest, which is this like multi-day music and movie festival that was held down the South Shore that my buddy Joe and I put on, and all the filmmaking friends we have would show stuff. And Julie showed a Slenderman movie, and at the end of the movie, she came out in the costume. It might have been the same movie.
It might have been that one.
Yeah. Julie and Amanda's Fun with Slender
Yeah.
Man. And you kind of came out behind the movie screen. There was like a doorway we could sort of see you through, and you were in the full Slender Man getup, and we were back, one or two of us were back there making sure you could like see enough. It was dark. And like some people in the audience were creeped out, and the evening kept going. Like it was just like amongst a bunch of comedy movies, there was just one spooky movie. So last week I'm hanging out with my nephew. He's 19 now. And he was at that movie screening, and we're walking out of the movies. We had just seen The Meg, which was bad.
Yeah.
Fun but bad. And we walk by a Slenderman movie poster, and my nephew goes, "Oh man, I remember being 10 years old at this movie thing you put on, and Slenderman showed up like in the movie theater, and I was so afraid." I didn't want to say anything though, because I wanted to be cool, because I was hanging out with all these college kids. And I was like, "Really? Like that really got you?" He's like, "Yeah, dude, I had like nightmares for a couple of days." He was like really scared by it.
So it worked.
Yeah,
That's cool.
So
Awesome.
you impressed that on a 10-year-old kid.
Damage forever.
But,
We got
shut
some
that door.
construction
Do I
outside.
shut that door? Yeah.
Yeah.
That should be fine. I'm not too worried about it.
People will forgive us.
That's a true story, by the way. That's not bullshit. Like Dylan brought it up out of nowhere,
That's really funny.
and you're like, I was like, really? Like that's kind of cool. Like,
Oh, really? That's funny you should mention that, because Slenderman's gonna get you today.
he killed my friend.
That was really Slenderman, Dylan.
So-
I'm 19. It's like,
Or what if you've been like, that didn't happen?
I didn't see anything.
That would be really scary. So you went on to make more Slenderman movies, though.
Yeah, I made one with Ryan.
Yes, I was doing my research last night on myself. I made a Slenderman stop motion animation. I put it up on March 15th. The Ides of March. I put up on March 15th, 2010. It's still doing well. Nowadays, when you Google Slenderman, lots of other stuff comes up first. But Julie helped me up in the Back Bay, up in it must have been actually Brighton. It was just outside of Boston city limits, on this park at night, where she helped me with a creepypasta where she was we did some great like Jacob's Ladder style stuff where she moves her head quickly, and we had her in the backgrounds, in park settings, and I have strong memories of it was a lot of fun, and that yes, Slenderman is not a one-woman job. You require an aid for mobility. It was not easy, was it?
Yeah, that was when I had the bad stilts still. But then I upgraded and I got drywall stilts. So I could continue and need less help and actually walk around.
And I put up my creepypasta, The Slender Man, on April 10th, 2011. So even by that point, 2010, 2011, people knew who Slender Man was. Of course they did. Otherwise, why would I be capitalizing on someone else's character?
Anyway, at some point, you did a tap dancing thing too, right?
Yeah, that was an April Fool's joke at the theater club evening. It was, for April Fools, they thought that Slender Man was gonna come
Gonna
out
spook 'em
again. I
again, yeah.
played some Residents music that was creepy, and I was standing on a chair and peeking out of a door, so it looked like I was on the stills. But then I jumped down from the chair and I do a little tap dance routine to The Entertainer.
Was it like Charleston? Or
But you still have the long arms, so it's
Yeah,
really
still the
funny
long arms. I was
looking.
doing a little time step.
For that, that shot from the first Nightmare on Elm Street where Freddy has really long arms. It's basically that.
It's supposed to look scary, but it looks
Yeah.
dumb. Yeah.
It looks kind of scary. I don't know. It's-
Yeah.
Anyway, so then I think probably based on the reaction that got people, I think we all started to realize like Slenderman's kind of funny. You can kind of make fun of
That's
it,
the
right?
thing that I
Yeah.
was thinking about having just seen the movie having just seen the movie. Once you get a good look at him, once the shock value's over, there's just not a lot going on, which is, I'm impressed. I was thinking about that driving home the other night. I'm impressed at the staying power of something that objectively in the moment lacks staying power.
So then, how did Splendorman come to be, Julie?
So I was speaking with your sister Emmy, and probably just talking about Slender Man, and one of us had a slip of the tongue and was like, Splendor Man, and we thought, oh, Splendor Man, he's full of splendor, and then it was kind of just in the back of our minds, like, what if that was a character? And then I guess I decided to make that, and I made these little polka dots that I taped to the pants that I had, and everything was removable. So I got a little tiny hat, which I naturally just had a tiny hat on me, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
and
think the
made a
tiny
little
hat
face.
makes it, yeah.
Yeah, the tiny hat, that, and then the polka dots.
And then
Like
you drew
sprinkles.
a happy face on
Yeah, the happy face,
spandex.
which was just, I think, just construction paper taped to the mask. It kept falling off.
You can see polka dots falling off in the
Yeah,
video, but
and then we
That's
just
right.
incorporate it into, that's just how Splendor Man is. The
so
polka dots
yeah,
fall
so we So we all kind of got together and we shot this video where it starts off like it's going to become a Slender Man video, but the static in the video shows happy things like puppies and hot air balloons.
Yeah, so we had, I think mostly it was ad-libbed.
Yeah.
But the ad-libs were just the most cheery, saccharine things that you could say. It's Emmy and Amanda having a picnic, and they're talking about strawberries and grandma. And
it's daylight too, which it's daylight.
Daylight in a public park.
And then the reveal is you're just in the background and you walk forward.
I walk forward.
Yeah.
It's a little,
Stills.
the glitchiness. I added dolphins, Twinkies, bunnies, a Ferris wheel, I think.
Well,
Splendored things.
Because
Yes.
at the time, whenever someone
Yeah.
did a Slenderman video, whether it was like Marble Hornets or Ryan or anyone on YouTube, there's always that's like one of the token things you have to have, and that's static has to happen between random shots.
Yeah.
Because back then, that was people's understanding as to that's what video glitches look like, right? Mm-hmm. Like, because you can't have like film burning up, it has to just be like VHS static in a weird way. Like,
Yeah.
like,
And it's easy to do. You know?
yeah, it's like a built-in thing with like
Yeah.
Sony Vegas and Premiere and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I'm actually looking at the SlendermanWikia.com, and there's an article on Splendorman that does give credit, claiming that Splendorman's birth was that video.
Great.
Like, so the internet does accept that is the origin, but
Long story short, it's a joke video with Splendor Man and happy music plays, and
Yeah.
you do a little dance.
Little dance, there's happy music, and then I throw glitter at the end.
And Emmy and Amanda go turn their head, Splendor Man. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some cartoon birds that Emmy animated.
Yeah, she did, and like a little, I don't know, hearts or the letters form in the air.
It goes nowhere. It's basically if
just
if
2
Vine
minutes
had-
of jokes put out of order. Like,
it's
who
a
cares?
it's a Vine, but it's like 2 minutes long,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It would have been a Vine if it had happened later, but
You are credited on this website as Splendor Man, as portrayed by special stilts actor.
Oh, great.
that's your name.
That's like on this Wikia. That's the credit
Special
given to
stilts
Julie.
actor.
Yeah, it does sound like a cool qualification.
My name is literally in the credits.
That's the internet.
It's a problem. I
is.
get the credit because it's on my channel.
Right.
Channel's my name, but it's totally. I forgot that Emmy helped you come up with it, but it was totally you birthed Splendor Man for sure.
Yeah.
you're the mother of Splendor Man.
There's like merchandise and like masks and T-shirts.
We just found this last
Yeah, this
month.
mask.
Someone
And-
makes a Splendor Man mask.
Yeah,
and
profiting off of the face. And I don't know. It's
It's a little weird.
a little weird.
yeah.
Yeah.
'cause it's not
I
like
think you do know. I think it's okay to say I don't like that.
I don't like it. No, I don't. And I've never, profited off of that or anything. And it's just, it is weird that someone would just do that. I don't know. Well, it's not that weird. I could see someone doing that.
If
but-
any of you are going to be Splendor Man this Halloween, send a check or money order to.
Yes, exactly.
Well, it's weird because like a lot of stuff on the internet, and this has gotten worse as the internet has gone on, really is just predicated on like, okay, well, here's an IP you already know about. Here's something Disney's already making or advertising. Like,
And
making,
Slender Man is kind of up for grabs.
and
so,
Slender
yeah.
Man's kind of an
for
original thing. Like, it's an original thing. I still don't understand the ramifications behind the new movie. Like the creator of Slender Man was given credit.
Yep.
In the movie at the end, like
Oh, wow.
a character created by Eric Credson.
Who is that? Is that the Marble Hornets person, or is it from
I
the
think
Something Awful?
I think
thread?
this is Something Awful guy.
Wow.
Well, that's
okay.
cool. They doxed him and found his
They
real
use the-
name.
but I want to know if like money had to change hands or whatever, because like so this is sort of the main pull for Slender Man with me, and that is the internet, for better or worse, is a collective consciousness. We're all pooling our thoughts and our personalities into it all the
Yeah.
time, regardless of anonymity, regardless of bots. It is the sum total product of all human consciousness, right? That's on the internet, right?
Yeah.
That is what the internet is at the end of the day. It's why it's such an angry place, because not everyone's brains agree with each other. So you look at creepypastas, and that is a natural evolution of a shared storytelling experience. It's more than like a game of telephone. It's more than oral history. We're all kind of waxing and waning and maybe improving these ideas, these stories. But unfortunately, most of them are written by high schoolers, and they all have what you end up seeing is a certain pattern. When you look at like 1,000 creepypastas, they all kind of have the same ABC, right?
Yeah,
Like,
because
if
they're
you,
very much riffing off each other and inspired by,
yeah.
written by people who've only consumed other creepypastas.
Here's a scary thing I saw in The Ring. Here's a scary thing I saw
Yeah.
in this other movie. Let's just do. I'll just write that because that
It makes me think of some poor 6th grade teacher going, I've been reading the same essay for 30 years.
This is just
Because 6th graders are learning how to write.
And this isn't.
Period.
Now, to be fair, this isn't just like on like Reddit and like something awful and stuff. This, I mean, people complain all the time about like the Marvel movies or just like this is the same 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Like there's like a mulligan. There's like the forced love scene and like but with creepypastas, they're happening at a much higher rate. And at least with something like Slender Man, it was an original thing. But when I look at Slender Man, it's so the character himself, right?
Yeah.
I'm attributing a sex because he's called Slender Man.
Slenderman.
Slender Man. It is a very vague, like almost like a Rorschach test. Like it's a blank face in a 3-piece suit. It almost feels like
Maybe he has tentacles, maybe not.
Maybe
depends
not.
on-
Sometimes
yeah.
it does.
It's like an uncanny valley type of thing.
yeah, like it'd be like if you took electrodes and hooked them up to everyone's brain. They have those machines that can let you see people's dreams kind of nowadays. Like you can like look, it's almost like a not thermal imaging, but like electrical. You can interpret the electrical signal of someone's dreams these days. And you can look at a monitor and be like, oh, this is what they're thinking of.
Sort of.
It's cool.
It's very crude.
It's cool.
but
What,
Right.
the way
very
they do
vague.
that, but we can cut this out. But
No, keep it in. This is the cool thing.
I remember when that came out, I was like, how are they doing that? What they do is they show a bunch of images to someone with their brain hooked up to wires.
Think of a green
They,
apple.
they show a
Think of-
bunch of like stock footage or whatever, and they assign certain brain waves with those images.
Yeah.
And then they do the reverse, and
Yeah.
they record the dream.
They reverse
and then
engineer
they
the
pull
signal.
up the images that are associated with those brain waves. So it's not actually the images you're dreaming.
Sure.
But it's it's what's represented by those.
A
brain
similar
waves.
thought.
I think if you did that with if you took like all 7 billion people on Earth and took everyone's nightmare through that machine, it would just look like Slender Man.
Okay.
It's just like kind of a ghost face. Like it's just
Yeah.
a non-face.
It's almost human, but
it's
it's not.
corpse-like. It's a stranger. It's something that shouldn't be there. Yeah.
It's the boilerplate scary thing, regardless of whether or not it's actually that scary. Like the story isn't really. It's kind of immaterial. Even like in the video games they've made, the story is very like he's like in the woods in the suburbs and don't look at him too long or he'll go
If he
crazy.
gets you, he'll get you.
He'll get you.
Have you
Yeah.
ever heard? Have you heard? Any of you ever heard the theory that the regular good old fashioned alien, the one that we call the Greys,
Yeah.
big head, big eyes, skinny neck, skinny little body. You're like, oh, because in the future they have big brains and they don't really need muscles because they're technology.
Yeah.
And they're weird looking and they're just a little too close to us to be comfortable. And so they are uncomfortable. And sometimes they're goofy and sometimes they're menacing, but there really isn't a lot going on there.
The Greys, yeah.
The Greys. Yeah, what we commonly
we all know them. We love them.
Right. No, some researchers have speculated that's what we look like to newborn babies.
Yeah, I think that's a I think that's a
That's
similar
what
thing with
humans,
Slender Man.
they pick up on the eyes, and you're all kind of smudgy figures. Because like Keanu Reeves first being woken up by Lawrence Fishburne from The Matrix.
Yeah.
Why do my eyes hurt? Because you've never used them. Like when a little baby, like a lot of mammals are born with their eyes shut. And
Yeah.
Ducks, I guess. Fucking.
I think it's also like Slenderman is like clearly the product of like Photoshop tools in 2008 and 2009.
exactly.
Yeah, like
It can
just
blend in very well with trees.
yep, very much so.
Yeah, he's skinny. He can hide. Kids go play in the woods. Kids go play at playgrounds in the dark. Kids play in playgrounds. Children do. Teenagers hang out in playgrounds in the dark.
I just think it's cool that you can almost mathematically quantify why Slenderman is the way Slenderman is.
exactly.
Like it's like a very much a product of the environment he was created in.
Now, lest you think we're talking about Slenderman because we're stuck in the past and we haven't been paying attention to the internet in the last 8 years, there's actually a new Slenderman movie probably not in theaters by the time.
Probably
by,
won't
like
be
2
by
days ago.
tomorrow.
well, yeah, but I mean, it's not going to be in theaters long, guys.
Yeah, we saw Slenderman. Ryan and I did.
Yeah, so last night you and Kevin and Ryan saw it with our friend Max.
Yep, Max
friend of the
Pacheco
show.
was with us.
I did not see it. Julie, you did not
No,
see it.
and I will not.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to see it.
No, you're not missing anything.
I saw the Bye Bye Man already, and the Bye Bye Man is a bad movie, but I bet it's better than Slender Man.
I don't know.
Did you see Bye Bye Man?
No.
Did you see Bye Bye Man?
Doug Jones.
No.
It's a
Oh,
fun thing
really?
to say.
Yeah, it's
I'm
your
sorry.
friend Doug Jones.
Ah,
Hmm.
maybe I should see it.
Yeah.
So, how do we want to talk about this movie? Because we entertained the idea of Julie and Neil, who haven't seen it, playing a game of hot and cold with Ryan and I, where Ryan and I handhold you through the 90 minutes of Slender Man the movie.
If you want to give it a shot, maybe not all 90 minutes. But
Okay. I just want. Okay, let's have Julie and Neil guess. How does Slender Man the movie open? What's the impetus? What's the inciting incident that gets things scary?
A child is abducted or disappears.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
it?
but now go back. Like, why? Why is the child?
Well, the child's like on a swing in an abandoned playground, and you hear the creaking of the swing, and then the camera moves away, and then you move back, and the child's gone, and the swing is still swinging.
They do that.
Would have been better.
Later in the movie.
I'm
That's not the
sorry.
inciting incident. There is a catalyst.
Someone says Slender Man 3 times.
No,
That's close.
warmer.
Yep.
Keep thinking. What would make Slender
4
Man
times.
show
A
up?
seance.
Closer.
Very
Oh,
yeah.
Ouija board.
Someone finds a camera.
Getting warmer.
Someone finds a
a video camera.
flash drive.
You're both getting warmer, but different
digital.
directions.
Or a video like The Ring with Slender Man in it.
A tape?
Warmer.
Tape. A DVD.
Nope.
An
HD
YouTube
DVD.
video.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Okay. So you've just written the first third of this movie.
So they just find
did
it, uploaded on...
It's on a Russian website,
Oh, okay.
right? Don't they
Or
say, I'm sorry.
Ukrainian, like this feels like something that'll give my computer a virus. They
So
make
it's
that
not
joke.
even found in the woods. There's no physical creepiness to it. It's just a website.
Yeah.
The girls are at a sleepover.
Dark web.
Yeah, they think call. They never say dark web, but they're like, this is different than the regular internet. So what's the difference?
The
Yeah,
evil
dark
internet.
web.
The evil
Dark
internet
web.
is black with red text,
Yeah, yeah.
and everyone has access to everyone else's instant messaging platforms. Everyone's constantly on their phones. The movie does try. It's about a bunch of like 4 16-year-old girls, maybe 17. They live in Massachusetts, and I think it's a fake Massachusetts town. They actually shot it here in Massachusetts.
The thing about Massachusetts, I'm constantly hearing new town names that I've lived here all my life. I feel like once a week someone mentions a town in Massachusetts, and I'm like, I've never heard of that town. So
It takes place. The filming. It was shot in air, but
Never
it
heard
takes
of
place. God damn it! The plot is quote one night in a small town of Massachusetts.
the small town of Massachusetts.
Not in of Massachusetts. So anywho, I mean, honestly, there's not much more story beyond that. Basically,
No.
someone gets abducted by Slender Man, and for the next 60 minutes, the characters don't really know what to do.
And he keeps showing up in the background, I assume.
There's like, how many, Ryan, would you say? 6 scenes?
Yep.
In the movie.
So the girls will start to like The Ring or something, where like something supernatural starting to creep in. Like if you look in a mirror or you shut down your guard, where Slenderman will show up, he'll distort reality, he'll start to mess with people's faces and backgrounds, and then he'll just kind of look at you, or he might just shake you a little, or he might just put his hand on your shoulder. He's just fucking with people. He's not actually. He's not like he eats you.
And they never explain why he wants to make people scared. Like, there's not even like a toss away line, like, "Oh, you taste better if you're scared." Like, nothing like that. And
He
sticking
needs
to the story.
souls for the fire
Do
inside
you think
his
this
chest.
was rushed
Fine,
into
whatever.
production after It was a hit?
So I want to stick to the story just for one more
Sure,
minute. So basically, there's like I saw it 2 nights ago, and that's really all there is to the story. Have you seen it, Julie?
It. No.
Have you? I mean,
I know what it.
it's basically the first act of It, but over the course of 90 minutes, and it's just really loose. And in terms of the actual story, they just like the rules of Slender Man are so
Wishy-washy, wet towel. It doesn't
and
matter.
it's weird because they're wishy-washy, but they're also stated through the internet multiple times, like text on screen, like this is how Slender Man works, and like the entire origin of Slender Man in the first act is basically we read these rules on the internet. Okay, this is why Slender Man is the way he is. Like that's it. We started laughing. Like, yep, that's it. That's the origin of the story. These girls read about it on the internet, and that's it. That's them watching the VHS tape in The Ring.
Do they at one point go to Boogle and
Yes. Yeah. No, they.
type in how to defeat Slender Man?
Yes, they absolutely
exactly
do.
what they do.
They Bing how to defeat Slender Man.
Cool.
At a library.
Okay.
In a weird way, the technology goes backwards. They start off watching things on a laptop and then messaging on their cell phones. Then they start looking into Slender Man by going to a public computer lab in a in a library, which leads one of the four girls, after the first one gets kidnapped, to go look it up in a book.
So he does predate the internet.
Yes.
Okay.
He's like, they do the thing where he's like an old demon and like.
Okay.
No.
They
The only way
try
to defeat him.
badly.
Do they defeat him?
No.
No. They
No.
don't.
It's so. No.
They don't. It's not. They don't find out like milk can destroy.
No. Typically on this show, I love to get into like production and like the business end of making movies. It's like what I find fascinating about movies right now. I know nothing about the making of this movie. I don't know if it got rushed into production after it was a huge, colossal hit. I do know that they used 2 cameras to film this movie: the Sony F55 and the A7S II. We used an A7S to film Computer Fighters, Mr. Basement, like a ton of movies.
That's our camera. Yeah.
That's our camera. And they used to film this like $20 million movie. So aside from just like the really benign, non-existent story, it always pulls its punches on being actually scary, right, Ryan? Like there's
Yeah. Now, I'd read that about 30 minutes of this movie got left on the editing room floor because they really wanted to go for the PG-13 rating, and that to me sounds like total horseshit, and here's why. Number one, 30 more minutes of this movie would not have made it a better movie.
Yeah.
Number two, that's what you tell, like, oh, they really want to go for a PG-13 because they had to cut the scariest stuff.
Honestly,
That's what you say
Yeah.
when you made a bad horror movie, but you want to sell some Amazon Prime, $3.99 rentals and
Yep.
some Blu-rays and DVD. That's what, like, oh, I'm very sorry that you spent money on a piece of shit. But
Not a lot
the
of money.
real movie, the scary one's coming out later because you only get 2 strikes here. And
I'm
they
guessing
struck
the
out.
that half hour they cut out is more about trying to save the movie than trying to water it down.
It could even just be a total straight out lie that they came up with just to like get somebody to actually like try seeing the movie again.
yeah. Okay, I'll try and put up some positivity here. Because I guess it's gonna be us just dumping on. It's obviously a bad movie. A good thing about the movie.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that the director made an effort to tell the story through the lens of teenagers in high school that were a little younger and authentically teenage looking. They feel like 16, 17-year-olds. For all I know, they're like in their late 20s, but at least they look, maybe they got the Carly Rae Jepsen thing going on, where I'm just like, oh, that's a teenager, right? But there's a lot of walking around New England neighborhoods after sundown and kids not being intimidated by it being dark out. And it felt very much like junior high to me. I remember walking around Pembroke and Kingston at that age when there were sleepovers going on. And you see that in the first 15 minutes of this movie, a good amount. I enjoyed that stuff. When the girls have a sleepover, they're not in their underwear. They're not wearing Catholic schoolgirl outfits. They're just in like jeans and shirts, and they like fall asleep in those clothes. That felt authentically, okay, I remember this period of my life. I remember that.
Question, since it's teenage girls, do they at all play on the thing where it's just like, oh, Slender Man wants us to stab our friend, or like anything like that? Do they play on the real world
a little
tragedy?
Yes.
They do?
One of the 4 girls has a younger sister who's just 11, 12, 13.
She's maybe like an Irish twin, like a year or so younger.
I'm going to say 2 because they're supposed to be like 16, 17-year-olds.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And she's 13, which isn't a great deal of difference in terms of age, but 13 to 16 is gigantic at that age.
She admires her older sister.
She really looks up to the older sister. And to me, it seemed like a bad move to elicit the real world tragedy at all, because it adds nothing to the story. It doesn't really help, and it's
Well, no one gets stabbed, right? Like no one, like nobody. They don't like ever hunt down somebody in the movie because Slender Man told them to, right? Like,
well, I thought that of the 4 girls, that the other dark-haired girl, because their names, I watched the movie.
I think her name's Ren. We were laughing at that.
Oh, that's right, because Max made a joke about Stimpy.
There's a scene in the movie where someone's walking through her house going, Ren, Ren, Ren. And like the 5th time, Max just went, Stimpy. But I think it's Ren. I think Ren's the one you're talking about.
Yes, where you see a video of the younger sister going out in the woods and trying to invoke Slenderman herself, and they turn the camera and Ren is there with her.
Yeah.
Now, it would have been interesting if, I was willing to sacrifice my friend's little sister to get our friend back. Like, you have to trade something like your sister
Something like that.
to get our friend back from the Slender Man. But that's not what... Because at first I thought, oh, and this one who we trusted the whole time, the one who initiated finding Slender Man, she was behind this all along, and she gives up,
Yeah,
like,
there's no
souls.
such twist. It's just
No.
like it was like an accidental thing where like one of the girls basically took a pity on this younger girl. It was like, oh, you want to feel cool? You want to hang out with us? Okay, yeah, I'll show you Slender Man. And it's like kind of retroactively told. It sounds confusing because it is a little confusing. And I was thinking the same thing. Ryan was like, oh, are they going to like draw parallels to like the real world thing? That'd be kind of screwed up. I don't think I think that was just the only way they could twist the yarn in this movie was like, oh, and one of them accidentally curses somebody else. Like,
Yeah, not to bring up the Bye Bye Man again, but that is a
Please.
bad movie, but it at least has one interesting conceit to it, which is that the Bye Bye Man manipulates people into killing each other.
none of that in this. There's one scene where a girl finally gets to go on a date with this guy, Tom, I think was his name. And Tom's like super nice. He has zero personality. He's just cute. Great. They're finally kissing and she's like infected by Slender Man, right? So she's slowly going crazy. And
Cool,
like,
yeah.
it's just like, she looks at his face and he just has like a generic, like Photoshop, like blurred eyes, dark pits for eye sockets face, like kind of thing that you've seen 100 YouTube clips of, like After Effects monster face test. Like, it's just that, but it's like, can you picture what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they're
Yes.
making out and then she looks at him. He's like, oh, you got a spooky face, but it's like, it's number one, it's not scary looking. You can pull that off. Like I've seen that done in movies where like, oh, someone suddenly has a scary face and it's like a jolt. It's so slow and muddy and left on screen so long. It looks like maybe they had a scarier version of it and they just dialed it down for PG-13 or something. It just
Definitely
doesn't.
possible.
I mean, that always bugs me about PG-13 horror movies. Is not when they omit like violence or swearing or things that are mature, but when you can clearly tell like, well, they dial down something that just looked scary. Like, oh, we got to make it so 13-year-olds won't actually be scared. You're making the Slender Man movie. Make it scary. Don't like, why water this down? It's not for TV. It's not for like some streaming service. You're charging $10. Slender Man's supposed to be scary. And in this movie, I looked it up. They did start filming it before it came out, about 7-8 months before it came out. So I don't know. Like it isn't the kind of movie that I'm gonna get too angry about, but that is just kind of a common problem in horror. I thought we were over in the last 5-6 years.
Yes.
Like I thought, like after like It Follows and such, we were just done with that. Like we're just like, no, just if it's gonna be a scary movie, make it a scary movie. Like don't like put spooky stuff in it.
I mean, the horror genre is not gonna get better overnight, you know?
No, it has been.
I mean, like, it's not gonna get fixed.
I'd
overnight,
argue that the
you know?
last 5 years, like why
We have smart horror now, and that's
We do,
fantastic.
but-
what's the point of making the Slender Man movie this lazily? Like you know what I'm saying? Like
Sure.
like the Bye Bye Man, I get. Right, it's like like same budget, probably the same producers. For all I
have no
know,
idea, yeah.
But like these movies will come out every 12 months, right? Or like Truth or Dare, that thing that just came out. Like there's always like these like just like bottom of the barrel, awful horror movies. But I thought if you're gonna make a low budget horror movie that's that effortless, give the money to like some no name director who will make like a found footage movie or Lights Out, like something that will, even if it's terrible, will at least scare me at one point. I just think it's so weird. It feels like such an awkward step back to take a movie that probably, if you're going to commit and make that movie after everything that happened with those girls in the real world, I don't know, just go big or go home. Because like Ryan and I, we talked about this. I don't think Slenderman was Slenderman was CG the entire film, right?
There were no puppets. There was never an actor in a suit. It was
Never.
all CG.
And it's really bad CG. Like, and how hard kids on Reddit in Something Awful 10 years ago were doing a better job. Julie, no joke, did a better job making a scary Slenderman movie than this $30 million production pulled off.
Was this movie like? Do you think it was marketed to teenagers specifically?
It had to have been.
Yeah, because okay, I can only imagine that the people making it were like, oh, this is what the kids like. Even though anything having to do with Slender Man happened at least like 10 years ago, and back then that was what the kids were doing, and so it's like it's just made very late. And that's probably also why it's so bad with the CG, because the kids don't care, they just like the Slender Man.
We walked into the theater past a group of teenage boys. They made it through the whole movie, but they clearly weren't into it either. And every now and then you just wanted it to get better because it had the aesthetics down at times. Like when the kids are walking around late at night and like the only light is like the warmth of like a street light behind them or like their cell phone in front of them. Like there was some stuff that on occasion, I mean, well, there was one scene, right? I don't know about you, Ryan. Did you think the scene where the girl gets the video call started off okay? I kind of like the beginning of that one.
Yeah. Well, the girl is at home. She's upstairs. It's at night. She's in her bedroom, and the window faces out to the front street.
Yeah.
And she gets a phone call, and she picks it up, and it's a video. It's a live stream, if you will, of somebody looking up the window at her, and she looks out the window and can't see anything. There's no one there. And then she looks back at her phone, and the video's walking up to her front door.
Yeah.
And then it just goes through the door.
Which is when the scene falls apart. Like, yeah.
Of going and so she keeps looking back and forth between her phone and the reality to go, where it's getting closer, but I don't see it, and it's in my house, and which of these two things shall I be looking at? Which sounds like it's actually a more clever statement about cell phone culture, but it's not.
I feel like that's like I think there's a story in like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark where someone gets a call.
Oh, it's a standard. It's a standard.
I think that's the Viper. I think it's the
Viper.
Yeah,
the Viper.
I'm getting closer. I'm coming up the stairs. That stuff. That's like it reminded me a lot of It Follows in that, like, It Follows. I think it's. I'm not in love with it, but I enjoy the movie. Have you seen It Follows, Julie?
No.
Yeah, I think you'd like it.
It Follows as a better movie. It has flaws, but it's ambitious. They tried it. That's something that smart horror has been doing for years.
Yeah.
Trying new things.
It Follows and A Nightmare on Elm Street belong in the same. They're similar to Slender Man. I should say that Slender Man is cut from the same cloth, and that it's about teenagers. Something supernatural's happening in their town. They can't trust the adults. It's something that they can't stop traditionally, and it's just going to keep coming for them.
Sad detail. I know you guys were going to get together originally to see a screening of The Witch,
Which is a great movie.
at the Brattle.
Yep.
And instead you opted to see Slender Man.
Well, we want to do our research. We want to be prepared for this recording.
And honestly, I'm glad we did, because I'm always up to see a new movie, and I've seen The Witch a few times. I love The Witch. The Witch is one of my favorite movies the last 10 years. And this is a far cry from that. I don't know if it was successful. I don't know if it
can't be.
I'll can't. I know that you could see it through MoviePass. Unlike Mission Impossible, which broke MoviePass, apparently, and made them go bankrupt.
Now there's a real nightmare.
You try to like book your movie pass and the screen just goes to static.
Oh, cool. Okay, so the production budget, I'm seeing figures everywhere from 10 to 30 million, depending on where I look. Box Office Mojo claims the production budget was 10. That doesn't include marketing. So maybe the marketing was 20. Domestic total, $15 million so far. So I don't know if there's been much of a foreign release, but it'll probably be profitable before it comes to DVD and streaming.
Yeah, they're not going to keep it in theaters till like Halloween, right?
I don't think so. There's probably a better horror film coming out around then.
Wouldn't that be crazy if there's like some niche market, like a non-English language audience that just is really into Slender, where it's going to make a killing?
I just think that Slenderman doesn't have enough of a hook to fill out a feature film, because the movie feels a lot like The Ring early on. Like there's like a spooky video that you watch and you see scary stuff, and they do it twice in the movie, I want to say. And the second time it feels more lifted from Jacob's Ladder, but it's just, here's a bunch of creepy images. They're all kind of sanded down, so they're not actually that scary looking. But it's funny because Slender Man in 2009 or whatever was predicated on The Ring in a lot of ways, I think aesthetically, right? And so to make a Slender Man movie a decade later, like, what are you even pulling from? The story isn't really concrete. The four of us couldn't really tell you what he is.
The only thing about Slender Man is an image.
Yes.
It is one image.
Yep.
And you could put that image in a number of settings, but it's just one image. And if you want to do anything with it, you have to be creative. You have to make something that, some story. So it seems like they're just, I don't know. It's not a lot to go on.
And if you have to write a story around the aesthetic of Slender Man, it's like, all right, so he's got a suit. He has tentacles that make him look like a tree. He's tall. Okay, let's do something with trees. And that's kind of what the movie does. Like, we'll do some stuff with trees. Like, Slender Man's coming when you hear trees slowly cracking and blowing in the wind. And, like, they do some tree imagery towards the end. And it's just, There's a chase scene with Slender Man that's just awful. It's just you can't.
So
It's
is there
muddy.
really like nothing like surprising or like noteworthy about this movie? It's not like, oh, Slender Man used to be a tree or something like that. There's no.
No, there's no
There's
reveal. There's no like. There's like.
They
some,
try through the book in the library to establish that this supernatural being emits electromagnetic waves, and all living things do, and it's been around forever. And
But there's nothing in it that
No.
challenges like what you assume.
Yeah, what was his
about-
job?
Yeah.
He's
What is
dressed
there
up to go to
assume?
work.
What is
Yeah.
there to assume about Slender Man?
I thought to myself, like a movie that actually did that kind of well, the Mothman Prophecies,
Yeah.
with Richard Gere, where these Mothmen have been around forever, but they only show up. But Mothmen do something; they warn people.
Yeah.
Or it could be, Slender Man, he really wants to. Yeah, it's like one child he abducts, one child he drives crazy, one child he just pokes and leaves, one, he just bothers.
Yeah, it's actually now that I think of it, Slenderman is it's just a boogeyman, and it's a much more vague and kind of generic version of a boogeyman that's been done before, in the past with a lot more color. You have movies like Candyman or Hellraiser, stuff like that, where
It Follows.
or it follows is a little bit more moodier and subdued, but
It Follows is a good way. They did a good job diluting what something like Slender Man elicits in your brain. Like what's scary? Oh, it's coming for me.
yeah,
Like,
something
that's-
coming for you, seeing something
Always
out of the corner
coming,
of
no
your eye.
matter where you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of sad that that like a horror figure that really has its own kind of like unique branding is not done. I think was a big hit, and I really enjoyed it because it totally, it's got a really specific looking clown
Yeah.
to it, and it's got all this imagery that it totally owns, and it was refreshing because horror, even a lot of good horror, is pretty subdued and not extremely bizarre.
Showy? Yeah.
There's not a lot of like surreal imagery or
In good horror.
in good horror or like what I'm trying to say here. Yeah, there's not a lot you can make a Halloween costume out of
Yeah.
in horror anymore, even in good horror. So Slender Man feels like just kind of a perfect example of what a wet fart in the wind horror can be these days.
I feel like horror has gotten a lot better though in the last.
Yeah,
10 years.
over like as film for sure. Yeah, but as pop culture, it's definitely not where it used to be.
Is it even fair to say Slender Man is a current horror thing? Just because this movie got made, it is. We all agree the movie got made way late.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
I mean, yeah, but we're still living there in a lot of ways. The only thing that's changed is like people are making good, like really fine pieces of horror
And
that-
TV
yeah,
too,
yeah,
and stuff like
TV
that.
and stuff like that.
I think it's. I don't know. I feel like Slender Man feels like a relic of post Ring, post Grudge, internet copycat stuff, like Jake the Killer and all that kind of whatever.
Well, didn't they also do like a Candle Cove TV show? Or there's a
Oh, did
I'd
they?
heard buzz
there
about
was
that.
None of us saw
there
it.
was some TV show that had, I think it wasn't only Candle Cove, but I think it was other internet
Yeah.
creepypastas.
This is an easy joke, but I
essentially.
watched it. It was just a bunch of static. Candle Cove, by the way, is the only creepypasta I ever really liked, aside from Ryan's
Thank you.
videos.
No, that first thing I thought when I saw that there's some buzz around doing a creepypasta show, and I thought, oh, cool. I didn't even think, oh, maybe they'll use one of mine. I thought, oh, they're gonna take the shit that's stuck to the wall and not credit or pay the people.
That's why they
because
do
there's
it.
a lot of bad stuff, and they're just gonna make the good ones.
It's like America's Funniest Home Videos. Only you don't even get $5,000 or whatever it was. Like
You're absolutely right.
yeah. I mean there was
The show was rigged.
we did a whole talk about creepypastas on like our third or fourth episode, and
Halloween.
my favorite. I mean, I not just because you're my friend. I really like Ryan's. I always liked The Rake. The Rake got me. It's just a good short spooky story about a monster being in the room with you and you don't know about it, which has become such a trend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Slender Man, none of it ever did anything for me. It was just a cool aesthetic. And I guess the question is begged, could they ever have made a great movie out of Slender Man that was 90 minutes? Or is it a 10-minute movie? Is it a 10-minute video game? The video game is apparently beloved by a lot of people. There's 2 video games, I guess.
Yeah, I have just one quick story about the video game. So it was
Yeah.
Halloween. My neighbors were having a Halloween party, and they decided to play the Slender Man game in some, in a closed room. So I thought, oh, I'll just dress up as Slender Man and scare them while they're playing the game. So I got into my stilts and everything, went into the neighbor's house. I mean, we were invited. It wasn't just random. I didn't just randomly.
They weren't home.
show
It was
up.
cool.
But and I go up, and then they're just playing the game in the dark room, and I open the door, and they all scream, and it was that was just a little
Worth
delight.
it.
That's my experience with that game. Yeah.
So you got your mileage out of those stats.
Yeah, for sure. And I still use them for like my job, but
Which we did not mention earlier,
Right.
but by the way, Julie is a active clown nowadays. Mm-hmm. What's your clown name?
Julie Baguli.
Lovely.
That's great.
And you do kids parties. You don't scare them.
I do kids parties. I don't do the full clown makeup because a lot of unless people request, but a lot of kids just don't like it.
It's because, much like Slender Man, it obscures your face. It makes you look pale.
Exactly. Or
Yeah.
It. People. I mean, all the kids know about It.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Must be a tough time to be a clown right now.
Yeah. Especially for I think clowns who are more traditional for sure.
I have a brief story about clowns. A few years ago, the Freemason building down in Boston did like an open tour thing, and I went with a couple
I'd love
friends.
to go in there.
And they had like various different fractions of the Freemasons and Shriners and whatever. And one of the tables were clowns. They were just like these adult men, and they were
Masonic
dressed as
clowns?
clowns.
They had like they had,
Like that
Masonic
was
imagery.
Yeah, that was their lodge's shtick, was
Holy
they do
shit.
clown work. And but like the way I remember this day, the clowns kind of took over. So like whenever I start to remember this day, I'm just like, yeah. And so I went into the Freemason building, and everyone was a clown. Just not the case, but
That's the real secret.
That's a secret society, right? Yeah.
Like you just can't rank like all these powerful congressmen, governors, but like you just can't juggle. You're just not going up in the ranks. Your balloon animals pop in frustration. You work in the dark. All right, I think it's time to move past Slender Man.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
So
actually.
you guys like the movie?
Yeah, we loved it.
Yeah. Well, hello there. Now is the time of day, I guess, that we take questions, not answers, from patrons. These come from our Patreon, where people who kick us money are allowed to ask questions for these episodes. So
GuaranteedVideo.com.
guaranteedvideo.com. Yep. So just sign
These
up.
are the
ask us
state-approved questions.
No guarantee. We're not going to get to all the questions, but we really appreciate it. So thank you guys. Anyway, our first question comes from Bella, and it says, if any of you had to choose one crime to be world famous for, what crime would it be? Kevin.
My answer's not fun. It's punching the president. I would love to be that guy.
Hypothetically.
It's not a very
worth it.
creative answer, but I mean, that'd be kind of I'd love to be on the newspaper for that.
Sure. Actually, even with a president you like, as long as it was kind of like a consensual thing, like, come on. Like, yeah, like,
Then it's not a crime.
well, yeah, I guess so. It's consensual violence.
I just want that like Captain America punching a Nazi like still frame on like
Oh,
the
yeah,
front of
yeah.
USA Today.
All right. Well, do you have a less traitorous answer to it?
I like that one. I would, that would be a nice one, or something similar, like playing a prank on someone very corrupt, and I think doing something very silly that people laugh at, but I don't know, some kind of practical joke that becomes a national sensation.
Yeah.
Jokes.
Yeah, practical
Yeah.
joke.
You mean like using some light brights to animate some cute little cartoons like Moonanites that gets blown
Well-
way out of proportion?
Well, I mean, or something directed at somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm thinking like something Eric Andre would do, honestly.
Cool.
like what? Like taking Elon Musk's car and like unscrewing all the lug nuts on the tires, so as he drives out of his driveway, the wheels fall off or something.
Sure.
Or something like that. Yeah. Because he's a car guy, right? That's what people know
Oh,
him
like
for.
or like building your own rocket and going into space and stealing his car.
yeah, and like writing Tesla on the side of your rocket ship.
Yes.
Yeah.
In, like,
and it just cuts
bad,
to Elon Musk sweating like a scene from Ocean's 11 when
Andy Garcia.
Andy Garcia like, oh, they
That would
did
be-
what
I
to my
was-
car, but I put it in space.
The keying his car, something really expensive. Bang.
Slashing the tires.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can't go anywhere in space.
What's your crime, Ryan?
King of cards.
Well, I'll be a drug dealer. but not but not just any. I want to be the world's most successful, most powerful, most well-connected dealer of exclusively barbiturates. Because a few things. Number one, I'd find out what barbiturates are. I would have to. I would have to know, right? I'd have to know. I mean, I could go. Do you know how many times since like the 4th of July, I say, and this is a couple of weeks later, by the way, by the time we're recording this, that the thought has crossed my mind, what are barbiturates? They're always on the list in like DARE programs.
It's probably, all right, my guess.
I don't know.
Is they probably have a different name now that we might, yeah, it's that. But it just feels like something like sweaty old guys from the 70s used to take.
Barbiturates.
Want to have some ice cream tonight? Better eat my barbiturates.
So you take that job just so you can be like, I'm Ryan Murphy, I'm in barbiturates.
Which is also a Massachusetts town, Barbiturate.
Yeah. Oh.
Really? That does sound like...
That is a great...
That's where Slender Man takes place.
Yes. It's a seaside town. What would my crime be?
Don't blame this opioid crisis on me. I'm in barbiturates, which for all I know is just opiates. I'm sorry if that's the case. I don't know.
I want to sell heroin. Wouldn't that be a gas?
Great question, Bella. I guess my crime would probably be it's not funny, but yeah, I'd do the credit, wiping out credit, the debt thing from Fight Club, you know?
Dr. Otto did it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Dr. Otto also did it, but I think Dr. Otto was trying to take down society. I just wipe out student loans and shit, you know?
Yeah.
I think I'd get a lot of fans that way.
Get a lot of Twitter followers.
You'd make more friends than enemies, I think.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Let's see. Michael asks, are there any internet horror content that you think would be primed to make the jump to TV or film, like Channel Zero or a good version of Slender Man? I like that. Yeah, this person just assumed that
we didn't
that we didn't like the Slender Man movie. Which
Good for
was a
you,
safe
Michael.
Assumption. Yeah.
Smart man.
I'll try and think of my answer. Ryan, why don't we come back to you?
The Russian sleep experiment. That's a clever... I love the story of Candle Cove, but Candle Cove works because it's a story, and it's something that you can kind of sort of... It's... Obi-Wan Kenobi just says, I fought with your father on the Clone Wars. That doesn't mean you need to make 3 more movies. This is one of those rare cases where tell it, don't show it actually works better. You don't need these elaborate backstory. It's not helping. To actually show...
A lot of creepypasta depends on the eeriness of recollection, poor recollection.
It's not going to be... If they were to film Candle Cove, it'll never be as good as what you're picturing in your mind.
Well, did they? Because apparently there was that TV
Yeah, there
show.
we go, probably.
I
bet it's not as good. And I will offer an editorial. I will apologize for that if I think in my heart of hearts I see it and go, that was better than what was in my mind. If that's the case, I'll admit it, but I don't think so.
Cool. Julie.
Something like it might already exist, but SCP.
Oh,
There's,
right.
I mean, there's so many different stories, but even just the concept of securing all these eldritch horrors and whatnot. It can
Cabin
go-
in the Woods has a bit of that.
Yeah, I guess so.
If you have to see that visual, they did a pretty kick-ass job with that visual, all things considered. But there's more to build. There's plenty more to build. Yeah.
Yeah, there like some that I remember. I haven't, I don't keep up with it. I haven't read a lot of them, but there was one where, you go into this room and it's like the room of life, where like you start to feel really great and like your cells are regenerating and everything, but then it gets like more and more out of control, like all these tumors and it's all like everything is overgrown and that's really creepy to me, like some kind of life force that.
Have you seen Annihilation yet?
No, I
Then
I
I hope I didn't ruin a lot.
They made
So
that.
sorry.
Okay.
It's not exactly a spoiler, but I mean,
You'd like
fun.
Annihilation.
It's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
You'd like it.
Yeah, I feel like SCP is kind of like what a tempting place for writers to just steal shit from. You know?
Yeah, and I guess it can kind of contain any story, any trope, so it can be for whatever.
A lot of my favorite internet horror content, I don't know if it's long enough in format to be adapted into a feature film or even like a serialized TV show. I started racking my brain for the ones that have stuck out to me. Like I like The Rake a lot. That one just always registered well with me. Or the No Sleep podcast. I've listened to enough of it to know that I've kind of heard my favorite stuff from that podcast. Now that there's a lot left for me on the No Sleep podcast, but there are a few stories called Pen Pal. They're interconnected, and they're about just someone growing up in the suburbs. And like Nia was talking about, it's a lot of the horror and the eeriness of those stories relies on the narrator having a poor recollection of the memory. And it's because the story is told from an adult point of view about memories they had as a kid about moving around a lot. And as an adult, when you listen, you realize this person's moving around a lot because this kid had a stalker and the parents knew about it and they had to keep that information from the kid so the kid wouldn't freak out. Right. Yeah.
Is it good? All right, cool. I
Yeah.
didn't know this
So
one.
there was some cool stuff there. But I don't know if that would work well as a feature film or maybe just like a 3-episode miniseries, kind of like an old Stephen King miniseries. So I guess that would be it. Pen Pal from the No Sleep podcast for me.
Yeah. I guess my answer is, and actually a lot of this was made for TV, but the works of Alan Resnick, who I'm friends with on Twitter. So, hey, Alan. But he's done some stuff for Adult Swim that is very much in the horror genre.
Yep.
And other things purely for the internet. And they always are ostensibly comedy, but like end up like really putting you off your lunch. I'd love to see him and his gang kind of do something in a movie.
What's the thing we might have seen?
Like This House Has People in It?
Yeah, he did that, which is probably too surreal for a film, but that's really creepy. He did a Alan Tutorial, which starts off as comedy, but eventually becomes just like really weird, dingy, kind of weird off the wall horror.
What's the one you showed me about the woman in the commercial?
Unedited footage.
Of a
bear.
bear.
Is that?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
him,
yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think.
What? One more time for the audience.
Oh, Alan Resnick. Yeah, just look him
Unedited
up.
footage of a bear.
Oh yeah, that's one of the films. Yeah, that one's really good. I do like This House Has People in It. It has someone sinking through the floor in a really eerie manner.
Yeah, but did you look up all of the related like wormhole you go through?
I didn't do that because in theory I really like ARG stuff, but
Yeah.
I've never.
It's a lot of work.
I've never really enjoyed trying to dig into
The
it.
translation of that material to a feature would be hard. I'm not saying those stories should be adapted
Right.
into a feature, but like that kind of creative mindset going, okay, now I got to make an 80-minute thing.
Yeah.
You have to make certain concessions to keep people's attention
Yeah,
span.
I'd almost want him to be brought on as like an effects guy or a consultant for visuals in a movie or something like that.
Yeah, because as we've seen with movies like Speaking of Annihilation, like there are
Yes,
just
exactly.
lulls where like this is clearly where the creativity drops off. It becomes just kind of movie fodder, and then the creativity comes back.
Sure, yeah.
So
Next question from Carrie. Do any of you have / ever had nicknames given to you? Kevin.
I actually know a nickname I had, Ryan and Neil had, but I don't know if I want to share them because they would make us bummed out. Like childhood nicknames tend to be kind of like sing-songy and mean.
Well, I can tell you right now, mine was Poopy.
Okay.
And I don't think it was because I was like pooping all the time, although maybe that's the origin. But I think my mom would just call me that because it would make me laugh.
Yeah.
And
Well, the family nicknames are always good. It's the ones that kids gave you in grade school.
Oh, is that what you're thinking of?
Those are the first ones I thought of. Like I know our 3.
Okay, what was yours?
I was Smurfy.
Yeah.
Which is really harmless in the grand scheme of things. But like the 8 millionth time, just shut the fuck
Yeah,
up.
it's really just hearing like there was a kid we went to grade school with named Alex. I can hear him in my mind's ear.
I know, the
saying
exact kid
Sissy
you're talking
Riga.
He was the only time I think someone in real life called me Sissy Riga, and not because I beat him up or anything, but because
Why would he call you Sissy if you beat him up?
No. I'm saying like, oh no, he's the last time someone called me that.
Oh, okay,
And it's not
yeah.
because I got revenge
But
on
people
him or
just aren't
anything.
like that.
Yeah, it's because people aren't like that.
People aren't like Roger Klotz.
And I remember at the time thinking like, really? Like
even as a kid being too
it's
good
like,
for this.
This isn't TV. You don't have to
Yeah.
like bully me. Like
Yeah.
And my last memory of him was we actually like bonded over a Goosebumps book or something. So I guess we patched things
shit.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was your nickname?
Oh God. In school, I used to bring Connects to school a lot. I would literally bring in my backpack a small box of Connects, and at recess, I would just like to build Connect stuff because I didn't have a lot of like friends who I'd like to do athletic stuff with. So it wasn't like, oh, cool, now I can go play basketball. Like, no, I wanted to like make stuff. I got called Toy Boy by a bunch of people. Yeah.
Oh my god!
I
I
was
forgot that.
Yeah, I was the kid who played with toys. What an asshole. Yeah.
Toy Boy. One of my memories
Those are for
of you.
children.
One
I'm
of
a
my memories
child.
of you.
We were like
is-
9 years old. Like,
One of my memories of you from recess was like running around really frantically, like playing make believe in the playground,
Yeah.
and leading a squadron of other kids and stuff.
yeah.
So like you definitely were using your imagination. I think after like everyone had kind of tapered off.
Yeah, you
maybe.
know what? Fuck those kids.
I know, yeah.
Like I like when I got to like 13, 14, that's like really when like the rubber had to meet the road. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll stop having fun and I'll cut my hair and I'll like start assimilating. But I held on
Imagine
long.
you have a switchblade made of Knacks and you're like, what'd you say?
I thought you were gonna say a switchblade of connects to cut my hair.
Oh, no.
It'd be like a scene
No,
out
to
of.
threaten the kids making fun of you. Call me Toy Boy again, I'll poke your eye.
I was bigger than most kids. I hit puberty really.
Yeah. Julie, did you have a good nickname?
Yeah, I had a couple. So one that I'm thinking of that was like, I hadn't thought about this in quite a while. I had a friend in preschool who I think just literally couldn't pronounce my name. So she
It doesn't
so,
count.
no, but so I know I'm not done. So she called me Jewelry, and then I remember in I think 6th grade I wore a lot of like choker necklaces, and I had like a
We all did,
Jigglypuff
yeah.
necklace. I wore maybe like 10 necklaces and like lots of jewelry. So I remember somebody making fun of me and calling me Jewelry because I wore so much jewelry.
So it's a recurring nickname.
Yeah, it's a
right?
recurring nickname, totally different context.
Self-actualized
Yeah.
nickname. Because when you were first given it due to this child's speech impediment, that
Right.
you-
Yeah.
The worst is when like you get like a nickname or like a habit ascribed to you that's a very natural thing. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, that toothbrush Tony, he's always brushing his teeth every day. Like, what you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, yeah, you're right. I'm gonna wear jewelry.
a few things. Number one, although Neil, although you have an older sister, your mother did change your diapers when you were a baby, among other people. So she has seen your poop.
Maybe Neil pooped.
Maybe I don't know. No. I have and Kevin, if it's the Alex you're thinking of, is the same Alex I am. I have a brief anecdote, but we need to move on to the questions. I was in the bathroom, and he stopped me from leaving the bathroom, and at the sink, he took one finger on one nostril and blew out a snot rocket into the sink. Or the floor. I don't remember. Maybe in my mind's eye it's a sink because it's gross.
Like to show off to you.
Yeah, well, what he did was he said, when in my family, when they're dried up, they're called boogers, but when they're wet, they're snot. And he held out his hand, like, and I said, I'm not gonna give you boogers, like if he wanted one of mine, or if he wanted me like to pick up his or something. He's like, no, you give me like money. I'm like, what are you, the attendant in the bathroom? Like, I'm not paying for that performance.
How old are you? Like,
We gotta get this
Third,
guy on the
fourth grade.
podcast.
I was going like, but he's like, basically, when they're dried up, they're boogers, and when they're wet, they're snot. And he's like the guy at the hotel waiting for a tip. And I'm like, I'm not tipping you for that. And I just left the bathroom.
Nick asks, Citizen Kane, more like Citizen Lame. That's a quote from our movie. What's one critically acclaimed movie you don't like at all, and why? For me, I just cannot get into Pan's Labyrinth. That's Nick's
I'm
comment.
sorry to hear that. What's his name?
Nick.
Sorry, Nick.
critically acclaimed movie or just like
critically acclaimed movie.
okay.
So not just popular movies. That's easy to.
That's easy.
Yeah, but a well-regarded movie. I'm gonna say I don't like most Brian De Palma movies I've seen. I saw Vertigo, and I wasn't very into that. I kind of didn't get why it's more beloved than like Psycho.
Sure. Psycho's great.
Yeah, Psycho's great. Vertigo, I kind of just didn't grab me. I saw it, like in a theater and everything. How about you, Kevin?
I know Ryan, Neal, and I have talked about this a bunch. I think Forrest Gump is kind of overblown.
Sure.
I go back and forth on it. Like, I get why people would enjoy it. It's like an audience-pleasing movie.
Totally.
It's kind of one of the earliest examples of a Lego movie or Wreck-It Ralph breaks the internet, where it's like, here's a bunch of crap you remember.
Yeah.
But the acting is fine, the music is good, and I like Lieutenant Dan a lot. But on the whole, it's like, what is this movie? It's like
it's
fake.
baby boomers reminding you how great they are.
Yeah, it's like a fake biography to like be like, hey, remember this, remember this,
Yeah.
remember this. Like, and at the end of the day, like, it's a well crafted, well directed movie, but like the core story is just kind of like a wet noodle for me.
Yeah.
So
There's been plenty said and written about the fact that at the end of the day, Forrest Gump's a little racist.
The character or the movie?
The movie. Things are really just these hippies do drugs and hit women, and these Black Panthers I hang out with. We're gonna go back to Alabama where things are good, and I can mow my lawn on my literally. It's I just forgot what those big houses are called.
Mansion?
But specifically in the
Flop house.
plantation. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna leave Washington D.C. with these dirty hippies who do drugs and hit women, and they're friends with the Black Panthers. And I'm gonna go back to my plantation where I can mow all this land I own.
That movie's pretty shitty to Jenny, isn't it?
Yes. Jenny is villainized.
Yeah.
Like
She's a victim of poverty. She's a victim of terrible abuse. And although they do the tongue-in-cheek thing at the very beginning, the reference to something of a nation, Birth of a Nation, where like, oh, Forrest is named after a Klansman, but look how far we've come. Like, not very far enough, not nearly far enough, Forrest.
I think Forrest Gump's probably the one I'm most comfortable talking about because there's other movies that are beloved by critics that I like.
I think it's a generational thing. I think you can find a lot of people our age who are like
Forrest
Fuck
Gump.
Forrest Gump.
Yeah. What about you, Julie? Do you have one?
I've been trying to think. I think that the things that I just don't care for, it's like things that I've seen too late. Like I wasn't young enough to appreciate it. I didn't grow up.
That's a
with
bummer
it.
when that you feel that.
Because I remember I watched The Sandlot, Goonies, and David Bowie Labyrinth.
Yeah.
And Princess Bride. All of those watched like in middle school.
Totally would hit.
Yeah, and it was so none of those. I don't really care about any of those basically because I was too old.
I watched the Goonies I watched it once as a kid, and then I went back to it maybe 5-6 years ago. And I like Richard Donner. I like the director a lot, and it's hard to sit through. Do critics even like that movie though? I actually don't know.
Probably not.
But like I agree. But Princess Bride, I saw it the first time when I was like 13, and it just worked for me. But I could totally see it's a bummer when someone wants you to watch like, oh no, this is like a classic movie I grew up with. And sometimes it works out. Sometimes you watch a movie for the first time and you're like, oh, Heavyweights is good. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's sacrilege to say, like, maybe The Sandlot's just a couple of catchphrases.
Labyrinth, Sandlot, Princess Bride. Oh, also, The Never-Ending Story.
Never saw it.
Yeah,
I saw that for the first time like last year, and it's not really good, but I was so impressed with the production that I
sometimes
totally
that
gave it a
helps.
pass.
Yeah.
Ryan.
Rudy. I think Rudy sucks. I really think Rudy sucks.
There are a lot of sports movies that fall into that category of like the
Absolutely.
Academy loved it, and it
Rudy is about a real person whose only intelligent decision he makes. I shouldn't say the only good part about the movie is when he graduates from high school and he's not going to college and he's working in the steel mill in town and his friend dies and he realizes I have to get out of the steel town because the steel mill is dangerous enough to kill people and nobody cares if I live or die.
Yeah.
Movie
And
could have
he
ended right there.
That could have been an ending the way you just described it. Yeah.
Yeah, that could have been pretty good. It's kind of like that movie about I want to work at NASA someday and build rockets, but Chris Cooper's my mean dad.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, he ends up building fucking rockets. It's great. Work. But Rudy's about if you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you can make it. If you just work hard enough. That is not how you get in the NFL. That is not how you play college level football or any sport. Or like Division A teams.
Yeah, like Notre Dame in particular. It's
Notre
just
Dame is, and the weird reverence the characters have for Notre Dame. It's a religion for them. It's kind of off-putting.
That stuff is always off-putting to me when I'm watching. I don't know if it's a generational thing, but we've talked about The Natural before.
There you go.
Mid '80s, huge Oscar winner. Robert Redford really wants to play baseball, and then this crazy woman shoots him and injures him so he can't play for a few years. And so then when he finally gets to start playing baseball, he's like older, which I don't know if that's in the book or if they use it as an explanation as to why it's Robert Redford playing baseball and he's like 60 in the movie. But it really, the movie just boils down to he loves baseball. Like that's like the big Oscar bait scene is him in a hospital bed holding a baseball, tearing up going, I just love baseball so much. And like it won all these awards and like it's aesthetically amazing. Like the filming.
It's very pretty looking.
It's very beautiful.
We've talked about this, but you might not remember this. In the book of The Natural, He strikes out at the end. He doesn't win.
It's the Rocky ending, and they change it in the movie. The ending of the movie is dumb.
It's the Casey at bat.
You'd have to see it.
Yeah.
Like, well, you don't have to, but no, I agree. Rudy's a really good example of like a post Rocky. Like, sport movies can be the Oscar movies. And
In the end of Rudy, he gets to play for like the last 30 seconds of a negligible, meaningless game, as if he's like the one kid in town. It's a level of tokenism. It's like he's the mascot. And in the real Rudy, I'm sure in real life, probably had an intellectual disability, probably has a learning disability.
Yeah.
And so they kind of made him the little mascot buddy and let him play, but not really play. And they in the film, he does not have a disability. They just have this weird message, and they kind of sugarcoat over the real circumstances of his playing in the last like minute of a game that doesn't matter, where they're going to win anyways.
you really have to like earn that kind of a like love for an institution in those movies when it's just like, oh, it's Notre Dame. It's like, okay. Like
When his father
why?
comes to see the game he plays in, and he like has an awe of like, I can't believe that we're here. And I thought, people spit their gum out here. It's not the Vatican.
They play football.
Yeah.
I played football. I was a football captain. I have very little reverence for football outside of like the technical stuff. I like football can be very entertaining to watch, but I don't think it's like this glorious thing.
All right, before we have to put a football on the preview image for this video.
Yeah.
Next question from Jazz Gag.
I'm a fan. Thank you, Jazz Gag.
That might be their name. It's not spelled
It's
with
like a
two Z's.
Sonic
Anyway,
friend name.
I want 3-word answers for this, okay?
All right.
Hey guys, snakes for legs or sharks for hands?
Sharks for hands.
Sharks for hands.
Pass.
I'll go with snakes for legs.
I thought snakes for legs because I think it'd be more productive. Sharks for hands, like I can't do anything.
If you can train the sharks, then it's perfectly fine.
If I have to like fight Spider-Man, sharks
Well, here's
for
the
hands.
thing. This person asked also why, but I don't want to give answers. I just
Okay.
want to. The less you know, the
With
better.
my
Like,
shark-
the answer is obvious.
Neil, what if my shark hands make me better at selling barbiturates?
Sure. I'm gonna cut out the crime questions of that answer. Guoni, I don't know. Guoni asks, "What's the first R-rated movie you ever saw?"
Oh, that's easy for me. When I was 4 years old, my parents showed me Terminator 2, and I distinctly remember the conversation. My dad brought the movie home. He had rented it from Video Scene in Kingston. And my mom goes, "Oh, it's R-rated. He can't watch that." And my dad went, "It's about a robot. Like, come on. Like, it's going to be like arms getting ripped off. But don't be any blood or anything." And I got that talk that a lot of kids got, which is, okay, whenever we tell you to not look at the TV, you got to like cover your eyes or put a pillow over your face. And I remember hearing the T-1000 stab a few people, like the T-1000 like stabs a guy through the eye, and I heard it but I couldn't see it, and So Terminator 2 is my first R-rated movie.
That'd be a great way to watch a movie as an adult too. Just like have someone tell you.
A censor.
when to
Somebody gets to
hide.
play dad and like put the pillow over your eyes.
Yeah.
Julie, do you have
Well, I don't remember, but I'm thinking about maybe a movie that just freaked me out or that my parents thought was inappropriate. The one I'm thinking of is Small Soldiers.
Hey, all right.
Definitely not R-rated. but-
Definitely not R-rated,
check.
but I think right, it was likely R-rated. No, I think it was because it was just too violent, and also because they were toys. I don't know. That's the only thing that's coming to mind.
It's Joe Dante, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe Dante has a way of making movies feel. He made Gremlins 2 and Gremlins, but Gremlins 2. So he kind of knows how to make a movie feel darker than he's allowed to illustrate on screen.
Ryan.
I do not know my first one, but the one I have the first one I have strong memories of is Predator. My dad showed my brother and I Predator, and it was one of those, and I'm sure this happens in households all across America, hell, all across the world. Don't tell mom.
Yep.
And we did. What if this is it? Sorry, Mom.
Yeah.
She doesn't listen to this.
A lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies that kids were allowed to watch, like Total Recall. I never saw Total Recall. That my parents drew the line at Total Recall. But
I still remember.
Yeah, there's some weird nightmare
it's like,
fuel in
it's
that
like
movie.
X-rated.
Now,
Yeah.
something that kids do not have today is you go out to the video rental place and you'll get like 2 or 3. One is clearly for the kids, and the other, Dad's gonna watch this, and either he greenlights it or Dad greenlights it, Mom doesn't, which means it's not greenlit. Period.
Yeah.
Now, mine, I was a very self-policing kid. I didn't want to see violence or anything that would give me nightmares or anything. So I don't remember actually seeing any R-rated movies when I was too young. I remember watching The Frighteners on TV and thinking,
that's
oh,
a
this is
good one.
R-rated. I think it's not. But
It
someone
walks
does-
that line.
It does walk that line. Jeffrey Combs gets a shotgun to the head, and I remember that being like probably the goriest thing I'd ever seen at that point.
Yeah.
The Express Train to Tell is fucking great.
I think probably the first R-rated movie I watched deliberately, as a and I wasn't that young, but I think I probably watched like Royal Tenenbaums on cable or something.
Sure.
And that was I think that was probably the first movie where I was like, I'm a grown up now. I can watch what I want. And
Yeah. I'll watch this sophisticated movie with
that
pastel
movie's
colors.
that movie's a pretty soft R. Like I think they say like cocksucker at some point.
There's like themes of like suicide and stuff that
Sure,
like you
yeah,
just
yeah.
can't put in
Very,
PG-13.
very brief nudity.
Yeah.
Oh,
To the
right,
point where, like
yeah.
a child might not even notice.
Yeah.
Well, our last question, Pika Bread asks, what are your guys' approaches to humor / comedy that crosses the line or crosses the line twice?
This has come up a bunch. Like a lot of comedy verges on the taboo or just scratching a part of your brain that recognizes something. A lot of people just laugh at something, not just because it's a reference, but it's because of thought that you never articulated and you hear someone say it out loud, right? That's like, and with us, whenever we want to do a taboo, we've had to wax and wane and like sand stuff down before. If we feel like we've ever taken an edgy joke and diluted it to the point where it's no longer the original joke, we usually just throw it out.
Yeah.
Like there was a joke in Computer Fighters originally where Daxter Flaxter, who's this, if you haven't seen it, he's like this like wacky like 90s pitchman guy with sunglasses, and he shoots lasers and stuff. And every scene he's in, if you look at his shirt, there's a different saying on the back. Like in some scenes it says cool, and some
There
it
you
says
go.
radical. I think in one scene it says pizza. And at the end of the movie, like for a brief moment, if you looked real close, I wanted his shirt to say like Rodney King. Like I wanted him to be like a Rodney King supporter who like didn't like the cops.
Right, yeah.
And like I thought it was funny that like this vacant shell of a soul would like really care about Rodney
And also
King.
because it's a very specific 90s reference to
Yes.
throw in there.
It's not just cowabunga. Like this name has weight.
the 90s had problems. And we were
I think we were like, that's too much like joke to have to get in a half a second.
Well, also we got to like a week before filming that scene, and it wasn't Trayvon Martin. It was
Michael Brown.
Michael Brown. Like was going down, and we were like, maybe don't put the Rodney
Suddenly
King.
this doesn't feel that 90s.
So,
Like,
yeah, maybe this zinger isn't. But like we've definitely had jokes where we just discuss like, well, what are we really going to gain out of this? And we're not afraid to do taboo stuff. Like
yeah, I think it's a good attitude to have is just approach it in good faith. You're not trying to piss people. As long as you're not trying to piss people off, and as long as you don't get over like hyper defensive if someone does point out something that you did wrong.
Yeah.
People just kind of want to be validated, and if whether or not you choose to engage with them, just be like, oh yeah, I get it.
yeah,
As long as you get it, then I don't think you're. Yeah. Granted, like I think our kind of comedy is definitely not really in that realm, especially nowadays. I think that we're a little older.
yeah. I mean, like we've relented when someone called us out for saying gypsies as a punchline. Like we're like, oh yeah, I guess some people don't like making fun of gypsy culture because they are that's like a slang for a certain type of person.
Yeah. We're just like, oh, well, to us, it's like it's a movie trope that
It's
we're,
Sardo.
Yeah,
It's
it's like that. But
when in doubt, just assume, oh, I could make a million other jokes. Why do I have to make that one?
exactly.
Yeah.
The other day I was listening to NPR, and there was an interview with Bo Burnham, who had just directed the movie 8th Grade. And they'd asked him about things he'd done and said earlier in his career. And he said, yeah, of course I'm not proud of them.
Yeah.
Like, let me ask you this. How many people were recording you when you were making jokes and you were 17? Teenagers try to shock each other.
Yeah.
But I grew up in the early days of the internet, and everyone before me grew up without the internet.
Yeah.
Maybe that means teenagers are more civil now. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not. They actually record themselves saying things permanently,
Yeah.
doing and saying things that are total for shock value.
Sure.
Teenagers have imbalanced brains. They have hormones that are at the wrong levels because they're developing.
And they want to learn control, and they want to feel like they're in power of something. I mean, everyone does to a degree.
And
but
I think if you get an audience in your early 20s,
Oh,
you
yeah.
might kind of stay in that mindset.
We could name very specific YouTubers.
Oh, yeah,
The
yeah.
usual
But
fucking
even,
Shane Dawson.
yeah,
Shane Dawson's
and-
always the one I go to. Like, I just don't like. Yeah, he never grew up. Like, he kind of doesn't. I don't know. Like, we can cut this out. But like the whole blackface thing. Like, why did that pass muster on YouTube? Why didn't they pull that back then? Like, they really were hands off in the first 5 years.
It was the culture, and I'm not as an excuse, but the culture definitely. People felt like we were past racism. We were even past homophobia to a degree.
Yeah.
And
It was a playground we could venture into.
it's a playground. We can kind of like derive humor from things being backward because we're not really backward, you know?
Yeah. I feel like gay jokes maybe in the last 3 years kind of went through a similar rebound where Rick and Morty had a punchline where in one episode Morty says something sensitive and Rick just goes, huh, gay. And the community had a gay joke, or that the punchline was someone says gay. And the joke is like, that's so uncool.
Right.
But the joke was like, well, come on, like gay marriage is basically legal and stuff. But now I think in 2018, nothing like Dan Harmon and company would never make that joke. I haven't watched the latest Rick and Morty, but I feel like I know what you're talking about with like, oh, this is a playground. Maybe we can jump into right now. It's a safe space again. Like
there's
this is
kind of
okay.
like, it's almost like fashion trends where like things kind of come back into.
Yeah.
And like someone I knew like used gay as a pejorative.
Yeah.
Like last year or something, and I actually like laughed because like, oh, I haven't heard someone say that like that since the early 2000s.
Since I was like 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Have we?
Anyway, we've kind of gotten
do you
off
want to?
topic.
Do you want to talk? I mean, like Julie, have you ever had anything that like you've like objected to working on? Like,
Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything that we did. Well,
there's the Dracula thing. That's like
that's one I'm thinking of. We never did it.
Yeah.
The other thing.
The vampire community, man. You do not want to mess with that.
we have another question. Sorry, we have that
Yeah,
other
I can
question.
do
Yeah,
something.
I don't
Less,
really have-
something less.
thought.
I don't really have a good answer. I think the only other thing that like, it's not exactly the same situation, but we made that Jumanji film, and then Robin Williams died like very shortly after.
But were you like
Right?
gagging on him like being dead? Or
Yes.
Oh, really? I haven't watched it in a long
He
time.
very specifically dies at the end of that video. We learned about it in the newspaper.
Yeah, but he was. I mean, like it was
Well,
clearly
here's-
out of
like,
a place
part-
of admiration. You weren't like dumping on him for 5 years and then like turned face
No,
like
but
other
we were talking
YouTubers.
about like an embarrassing movie that's not very good and just like
Whatever
acting
do
like
you
that's the
mean?
only thing he had been in. And I think it did kind of like put a poor taste in people's mouth when they went back and watched it.
I think
What are you
there's
doing,
there's another question somebody asked about like projects we didn't get to finish or like
Yeah.
but it parlays into
Again,
this.
that might be not like a Julie.
no,
friendly
but it
question.
might be a
Okay.
good combination. Who do you know who asked the question?
Viva Reverie.
Yeah, okay. So Viva Reverie asked this question about projects we've had to abandon or we never got to finish, and that actually plays into the the taboo humor question.
Yeah.
That's like we had a script a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, called Dracula Gets Shot. And I still think we should make this. It's modern day. Dracula's got someone cornered and like they're panicking, and Dracula, Bela Lugosi style Dracula, right?
Yeah.
Like black cape. And Dracula's like, ah, yes, after 300 years of slumber, I will finally feed on fresh blood. The cops show up. Like a cop car pulls up and like the sirens going and like the lights. And we wanted Julie to play the cop. And like Julie like pops out of the car with a gun and she goes like, freeze, dirtbag. And Dracula looks over at the cops with their guns, and Dracula starts to laugh and goes, ah, ha, ha, look at your tiny muskets. They are no match for me. Count Dracula. And the cops just shoot like once, and it like knocks Dracula over on his ass. And he's like, what the hell? Like it like really
he's
hurts.
just dumbfounded like like a gun technology has improved a lot.
Yeah, Dracula is like, we
Yeah.
gotta start playing up Dracula's like
Yeah.
really out of vogue.
Yeah,
and,
it's like, oh well, I'll just make my escape while they reload their muskets.
And then
they
Julie
just
like
shoot-
whispers to the cop, like, shoot him a lot. And they just shoot him like 4 times, and he just gets laid out. He's like bleeding out in the ground. And the
Yeah.
last line is Dracula going like, oh, this is definitely going to kill me. And like we came real close to doing it. Like I talked to a guy who had a cop car we were gonna rent. We found a parking lot in Davis Square.
Yeah.
And
Costume rental too. Pretty
yeah,
cool.
we were like ready to do it. Like it was gonna be like we're gonna spend a lot, really put our backs into this like really tight 45-second joke. And then Neil, you got cold feet because like
I balked because I was thinking, for some reason, I was like, police shooting unarmed people just doesn't seem funny right now.
I got
So-
bummed out. I'm like, we
I
can't
know.
shoot Dracula.
Exactly.
So, like, that's
the problem is, it's always going to be in the news. That like
Dracula's getting shot.
No, but like, police brutality.
Yeah.
And with our luck, we're going to put it up, and then there's just going to be another story because it keeps happening.
It's going to be like an African American man from Transylvania or something. Like he's gonna have like ancestors. It's gonna be like a very. I know it's not what you're worried about, but like
it's not what I'm worried about.
But
But I think we did think of a way to kind of retrofit it while also like making the police look bad, which might be more our style. So
yeah. That's like the fulcrum, I think, where we fall. Like it's
Yeah.
probably we've probably had other stuff we wanted to do before. There's definitely stuff we're embarrassed that we've done. That's still
yeah. There's I think thankfully we've never really predicated a video on something that we just had to take down.
Yeah.
I think there's
the no place like home thing.
there's one slur in that. Like
Yeah, and like the joke is like, this is so shitty that someone would say that.
Yeah, it's a character who's supposed to be bigoted, and because it's 2007, we're like, isn't it funny that people used to be bigoted?
Yeah.
So it's like,
I'm not proud of that either.
Yeah.
But it's you're right. In 2007, we had different sensitivity. We personally had different sensitivities, and the world was different.
we were also 20, and like your view of the world is like pretty naive, I think.
Yeah.
I like going by I'll cite my sources. It was Louis C.K. before his most public problems, where he was apologizing for something else he'd fucked up with, and he said a litmus test to run by jokes is whoever you're attacking, whoever's at the expense of the joke, can they defend themselves? Because if they can't, it's probably not a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And for a man who executes terrible judgment, that's not a bad rule to use for a joke of this joke's offensive. Can they defend themselves? If the answer is yes, then it might not be so bad. That doesn't mean it isn't offensive. It can absolutely be offensive.
My own personal litmus test when I'm working on anything creatively and I come to a point where I'm like, oh, is this too taboo or is this too sensitive? Why am I even talking about this subject? For me is usually, oh, is this constructive? Am I like adding to the conversation, or am I just kind of like,
Guffawing on the sidelines.
yeah, like her ambulance chasing to get attention too.
Yeah,
me too. I'm also going to talk about this. Like,
Bingo.
and like, I'm very picky. I'm very judgmental about a lot of content on the internet, as you might have noticed listening to this podcast. But there have definitely been times I've like relented on certain jokes. 'Cause I'm like, maybe save like the big, like, crazy or like high energy joke, like not for the taboo, but for the thing you really want to do. It's usually a good moment to slow your pace down and question the cadence of the joke or story you're trying to tell. Like it's a sobering moment. Like I like that. It makes me think more like a mathematician than like some like high testosterone person who just wants to put like a lot of energy and pratfalls into a project. So
Yeah.
so
I'm gonna throw in a unicorn chaser. Gender Toads, great name, asks, what of your works would you send into space for aliens to best understand human culture?
the World Wide Web.
That's good. Yep.
It's a very expository piece.
I was similar era. I was gonna say Ryan Murphy's Psychic Friend because it kind of contains all of human tragedy in 3 minutes.
So you can say this
Our
is like,
belief in the occult, our belief in money, our government trying to control dissidents, and and just like people suffering and lots of bright, fun colors.
yeah.
Ryan.
Oh, jazz. I want them terrified. I want them to
Stay
never.
away.
I want them to. I'm picturing independent. I don't picture the Vulcans landing in San Francisco to give us free energy. No, I'm picturing Independence Day. I want them steer clear of the third rock from the sun. Get the hell out.
Let's see. Maybe for me, well, I guess the ones that I was in, The Magic of Generosity, it shows class difference. It shows an urban environment where people live. It shows human greed. It shows a lot of different things.
They're gonna show up with a
Right.
whole bunch of urine trying as a
Yeah.
goodwill.
We come in
Biology.
peace. They're on the White House lawn with jars of pee and like blacked out teeth.
Where'd they get human pee? Don't think about it.
That's
Well-
why they keep abducting us.
That's guaranteed audio. Our what was it, 11th episode?
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Watch out for the Slender Man when you're driving home tonight, and have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Julie.
You're welcome.
Oh wait, Julie, where the hell can people find your stuff?
Oh,
dude?
shit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, people can find information about me on juliebeckerartist.com. None of it is funny. It's all very serious art.
JulieBeckerArtist.com.
Correct.
Cool. And you can see your face in various videos that we've all done over the years. There's no Julie Becker tag that I'm aware of, so you'll just have to watch every video and see if she pops up.
But we'll start putting Julie Becker hashtags after like the Magic Wish and things like that.
Yeah, actually, I should go through and like because you can like catalog actors on YouTube now, right?
Yeah.
I should just do that. Anyway, yeah, that's you know who we are. You can figure it out. So yeah, good night, everybody. It'll be real great.
Watch out for Slender Man.
Make that joke again.
Well, we're going to cut the previous one.
All right.
Thank you again for joining us, Julie, and until
Thank
next
you.
time, thank you, patrons.